So welcome everybody, and I'll call the meeting to order. Did anyone have any further comments on the minutes from March? We had a little bit of a round robin over email. Okay. I think if someone wants to make a motion to approve and someone else can second it, then we will officially adopt them.
I'll make the motion even though I wasn't there, I guess.
I don't think, hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, there's 5. Okay, yeah.
I second.
Great. All right. We're moving right along. Any public comment that's come to your attention, CJ?
Nope.
Okay. All right.
Although there was an inquiry from Cornell Real Estate relative to the natural resources inventory and scenic inventory, but this is more just an inquiry about the document itself, not a comment on it.
Okay. All right. Good. And I think you sent them the link of the draft, correct? Yeah.
That's correct.
Great. Good. So I'd love to turn our attention to the work plan and get some of your thoughts on how that's looking to you.
I didn't realize I was muted, but CJ, I will talk to you outside of the recorded session about Cornell and their comments and how they run those.
Sure thing.
Yeah, there's a very, very long history with how they have behaved around the unique natural areas inventory.
Okay.
All right. So you folks could bring up the work plan. Let's see. Do you want to look at it on your individual computers, or should we try to do some kind of screen sharing?
I'm pulling it up.
You're pulling it up? Okay, that sounds
Well,
great.
on my screen.
Yeah, that's great. Let's just stick with that method, and you can let me know if that's not going to work for one of you. So just a real quick background on the work plan. After a couple conversations with CJ over the past few months, I was realizing, okay, if this were the job that someone were getting paid for, they would have a work plan that they would work off of. And it hit me a bit late in the game, I suppose. But anyway, CJ's encouragement for us to be looking at the both the New York State regulations for conservation advisory councils and also Lansing zone legislation caused me to go back and take a look at those documents. And Tom also was looking at them. And then Tom and I got together after I sketched this out, and we talked about, okay, according to the legislation that has created us, what is on our docket, and then what else is on our docket. So this is just a first rough changeable pass to try to encapsulate the tasks before us, just make a note of our mission, and then to begin to think through, okay, who could begin tackling some of these tasks and who already is tackling some of them. So you can see for March, we have on there the Scenic Resources Index. And some things we've already done. We met with Cornell Real Estate on Tuesday, and people have been finalizing the natural resources inventory and completing the view sheds. Those are some of the things that are on the very first page there. So that's just the framework for it. And what I might do is open it up to all of you to see what your reactions are to the document and what your suggestions might be. I don't think it's wise use of time to go through each item, although we could if people really wanted to.
Just looking at the September, December creating management plans, how many current properties do we have that we would need to do that with, if any, or?
So my understanding is there's just the Benson properties. Is that true, CJ?
It could be considered that the CAC could weigh in on the unit management plan for Salt Point, although there is a Friends of Salt Point already, and I would imagine but there could be some, there could be some coordination there if this group
Okay,
saw fit.
interesting. Okay. So that's kind of currently handled by Friends of Salt Point.
Yeah, my husband is on that friends group, and I do some work there just as a volunteer. I'm not on the board or anything, but because of the nest boxes, I do help out with some of the events there. So I feel like it's not a neglected property. It's definitely actively being managed.
Yeah, just mentioning that's the only other property I'm aware of in the town that would have any kind of formal unit management plan. And presumably Bell Station, of course. When that happens, that will win. Yeah, it's like waiting for the TMDL, It's like when, Well, maybe not that long, but in any event, yeah, I would anticipate that would have a unit management plan also. So
Wasn't there also a wetland up in the northeastern corner of the town that was under some sort of wasn't a WIP program, it was some other conservation status?
the one that Robin found, the Wetlands Reserve.
Well, I mean, I pointed it out a long time ago, but maybe Robin found it. I don't know.
I met with this iteration of the open space piece. Yeah, it's I think it's Wetlands Reserve Program, WRP.
Mhm.
Okay. And
That was a
they
really
would-
small parcel, right? The privately owned one.
It was quite small. Yeah, I just don't know whether it was still under, under management, or if that was time limited.
Oh, and just to back up a moment, the town doesn't actually hold any conservation easements. There's no town of Lansing held conservation easements. The Benson property is held by the county as part of the FPIG.
So the
Although
county
I think-
planning reviews that then.
You got it. Yeah, exactly, John. There's like a coordination between county planning, the town, and Tompkins County Soil and Water Conservation District go out and monitor the property. But as far as I'm aware, there are no town of Lansing held conservation easements. I mean, maybe someday, soon, but not right now.
just so I'm clear, you said Benson's is held by county and Soil and Water Conservation District?
I think technically I could look at the easement. Hold on, I have it handy. I can pull it up. But I think it's held by Tompkins County, just solely
Okay.
Tompkins County, and then with the agreement that the town participates in the monitoring, basically. So that could certainly be an opportunity for CAC to kind of dip a toe in the water of the monitoring, for sure.
So who does that monitoring from the town? Or
Various staff members suit up with boots and, I think Charmaine even did it one year. So yeah, totally. So I did it with them in the summer of 2019. So I think we're coming up again soon. So
interesting. Okay. I'll take notes about some of these things right on the document itself so that we have a record of some of these conversations. So I don't have to repeat it in the future. Then I can send out a revised work plan to the folks, who are not here. So that'll be.
Wasn't there another? I thought there was another farmland easement that was up towards John. Is that
Don Hauser has one.
Hauser? Is that owned by Benson now?
No, we own some of it, and Don still owns some.
Mhm.
And that's through the county also, and I think the state. So that's also administered through the county planning. And they do an annual review of that.
Yeah, thanks for the reminder, John. Yeah.
Is that HAUSER?
HOWSER.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, good, good question that led to some learning here. Thanks, John.
And so when the Sims property, is that going to solely be done through the land trusts, or?
You got it. Yep. Land Trust is going to hold the easement thanks to the Water Quality Improvement Program money, and they got some county conservation funding, but they actually could just contact me today about it, about the areas they're about to write the easement for. Yeah, and that will be held by them. Yep. And they also, there's also the Ross property that they hold. I mean, there's a whole mess of Finger Lakes Land Trusts lands, but I'm just assuming here we're focusing on either town-owned lands or lands that the town would have a management agreement on. So I mentioned Salt Point only because we have a long-term kind of relationship with the state relative to that.
Mm-hmm. Other comments on this work plan or questions?
So I just want to, I mean, I don't know if the view sheds piece is a larger discussion or this is the moment to comment on it, but it was the decision now that we want view sheds on every single one of the 70 or so points, or is that still in play?
I thought we had pretty much decided that we would have view sheds on the top 20 to 24.
Okay, well, we're there.
Which is amazing. Yeah, that's great. I wanted to point out that, you know, as a Conservation Advisory Council, we have done quite a bit of work on thinking about energy conservation and participating in the NYSERDA program. Down at the bottom, on the last page, the second to the last row, where it says ongoing, is support the town's involvement in clean energy communities leadership. We currently are, you know, kind of in a connection with Terry, and Terry's going to be updating the town board. And we talked about this a little bit at the last meeting. In looking at all the things that are on the CAC's docket and all the things that we are charged with doing, Tom and I, and then CJ, Tom and I had a conversation about where this leadership program for clean energy should fit on our work plan. And one of the questions I posed to CJ was whether a new hire could possibly pick up some of the slack on that. And I think you were hopeful about that, CJ, but you thought it was going to take a little bit of time.
Yes, I'm very hopeful. Yes, and also that position has been posted, so it's on the civil service website now. Really exciting. The county is also in the process of hiring a sustainability chief sustainability officer, and I think there could be some cool synergy we could do there with them as well. So, you know, obviously I'd like to see it remain on the CAC's work plan in some way, shape, or form, but with the heavy lifting, you know, done by some staff, you know, with the availability to do that in their work plan. So it's coming. Just kind of bear with me.
Okay. And, you know, I said, listen, we can maintain the role of, you know, being an interested party and making sure that nudging happens where it needs to. And there could be a number of things that come up, but it seemed like some of that might fit better with a different role. So reactions to that from the three of you?
I definitely think looking at this work plan that there are a lot of things laid out for the next year. So any additional support would be appreciated. I know clean energy is not my particular area of environmental science, so I would welcome any additional help that would be able to sort of take on some more of that.
Yeah, and my time's going to get tight really quickly here too. So me keeping up with a lot of this is going to be difficult.
Well, I'm still happy to do some mapping work as needed. And I do know a bit about some of these other topics, although I'm also not super strong on clean energy, but I did, I think about it a lot, and I did come across a really massive and interesting database for citing solar that the EPA put together that I just found yesterday.
I feel like you were looking for some people to nominate themselves for different areas. The like management plan stuff is more in my wheelhouse. And monitoring, at least in the context of wildlife, I am happy to contribute to a management plan for. I haven't seen the property, of course. I don't know what's on it, but if the goal is, managing for nice wildlife habitat, that's more in my area. So I might be a little bit more interested in that side of things.
Mm-hmm. Great. Obviously this work plan is a sketch, and then we need to kind of convert it into concrete tasks. But we need to start somewhere. So that's really good to know, Robin. Thanks.
And the solar stuff I have interest in because it's obviously going to affect our business directly by the sounds of it, with as many acres as could potentially get shoved down our throats here. But yeah, I kind of wonder how much ability we're going to have to control any of this with what the state's looking to do now.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's going to be too little too late or what, in terms of how we can impact any of that.
Mm-hmm.
I see that, I don't know if you wanted to move on to another topic, but I see that the scenic byway is on our agenda for the month of April. I'm pretty interested in that from the perspective of the Scenic Resources Index. I spent some time looking at the scenic byway and understanding what it is, and wrote a paragraph about it for the scenic index. But I guess if it's not officially adopted, I guess maybe I'm getting the cart before the horse. But I definitely wanted to have it in there because I thought if it's a significant part of our scenic resources, it should be on the Scenic Resources Index. So I see we have that on the agenda. So that sounds particularly interesting to me.
We'll just pause there for one moment. So CJ, just so that we're all on the same page about the scenic byway, it seemed like there was a hope of kind of fast tracking some of the mapping having to do specifically with the scenic byway. I don't know if you want to just briefly mention that. We might have brought it up at the last meeting, but fits in here too.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to kind of speak to Robin's concern for a moment about the timing. I've spoke with Carrie a little bit briefly about the adoption of the natural resources inventory along with the scenic resources inventory, either appendix or whatever we want to call it, the whole package, kind of, shall we say. And I saw this as a comprehensive planning document, so kind of lowercase c, lowercase p document. So kind of plays, and what I mean to say by that is that in essence, the idea of a comprehensive plan doesn't have to just be the one document with capital C, capital P. Can be a whole host of documents essentially that kind of make up the foundational kind of planning work for the town, which you are doing. And so, Carrie, I believe, is going to be, your intention was to present this to the town board coming up at the April meeting. I don't know if I have that timing correct, but we had spoken a little bit about how to go about adopting that. And so I did speak with town council. We both confirmed that this would be a type 2 action. So that's no further environmental review required for that type of action because it would be uh, basically a kind of compendium of information. We both agreed that it would not require any county review because it doesn't directly impact zoning. So I would see just pretty much a presentation to the town board at their next meeting, just a discussion with them and maybe like a brief kind of overview of the document with the adoption via resolution in May. The May meeting, and that will really help us because then it'll really bring kind of all of the work you've done into kind of the you know, compendium of comprehensive planning documents that we have in the town. So that'll be a really nice basis moving forward for some work on the scenic byway. So there's been some interest for some time relative to the Cuga Lake Scenic Byway. I spoke with or corresponded actually with Sue Pulvorti, who's runs the Cuga Lake Scenic Byway Inc. And the board, I guess, along with her. And I've asked her to attend the upcoming planning board working meeting on Monday, April 12th. Does that sound right? 12th, yes, to kind of talk about some of the broad kind of policy goals of the byway, and then also start to drill into some of the parameters that we might like to see. So I won't go too far into the mapping and some of the confusion I inadvertently caused, but essentially what we'd like to put in front of the planning board is some of the primary view shed points that you've all identified and done great photos and all that cool stuff from, along with showing kind of a buffer from the center line of the byway. So that we can have both kind of an understanding of what a uniform application of the zoning would be, because zoning, it's a lot easier to deal with when it has uniformity to it. So, 100 feet, 150 feet, 200 feet, it's got to be, it's more easily enforceable. But we also want to see, like what Karen's been working on with the extent of the view sheds too, to see, how much we're capturing in each area and whether the buffer kind of needs to be variable in different places. So the work that you're doing basically is going to feed into that larger conversation with the planning board, who's been tasked to do that by the town board. And this is a very long-winded explanation of this, but in any event, yes, if we can get that in front of the town board, that will definitely help planning board in their work on this particular project, and others to come, like John was saying with the solar. We don't know where we don't know exactly where it's going to land, but Robin, you're, kind of, I think something to be kind of keep in the back of your mind is that I would expect an application to touch down within the town in the next 6 months. And so having your eyes on the application and CAC's eyes on the application, we know that Office of Renewable Energy Siting is going to preempt the field zoning wise, but I think we have a lot to add. CAC brings a lot of deep expertise to be able to review all of their exhibits, and there's going to be a lot of them, and they're largely going to be environmentally based. So you guys are going to, the work plan may, keep chugging on it, but it may, go right out the window when we get an application for a utility scale solar project that has, 24 exhibits that are, 50 pages a piece, so.
So is that budgeted in our work plan currently as the major task?
But we just don't know. We don't know, we can kind of guess based on NYSERDA rounds. I've been talking to NYSERDA, make sure they understand that, we're going to need some help and money. And I see that Livingston County is hiring a solar coordinator to kind of help them with project review. They haven't gotten any applicants yet, but NYSERDA is basically funding that position for them, because EDF Renewables is about to do 177 megawatts in Mount Morris area. So we're watching. So we'll let you know. I guess that's kind of the short of the very long there.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Thanks, CJ. Hi, Tom. Not sure if you can hear us, but it's nice to see a shadow of yourself. So welcome from wherever you are.
I'm in the grits capital of the world, St. George, South Carolina.
Wow.
So
Well, welcome.
I didn't want to put the video on because I'm eating.
Oh, so we are talking about the work plan, and we've gone through a number of different aspects of it. I've taken some notes, and I will send out another version of this thing. And CJ was just saying our beautiful work plan could go right out the window if we need to comment on some kind of exhibits for ORES solar plants. So she's just warning us that life could get even more complicated and busier.
Mhm.
So we have discussed what you and I talked about together and with CJ, the Clean Energy Communities Leadership. Hi.
Hi.
And y'all recognize it's still on there, and we're not going to drop it, but Robin was saying the work plan looks pretty full as
Yeah.
it is. And so kind of along the lines that we all believe in it, but we're looking like we have a lot on our plates. So any other comments about the work plan or questions? Okay, I will leave this topic for now, knowing that it's very much a living document and we're going to improve it as we need to. And people can continue to refer to it. And we will be using it as a guide for planning future meetings, assuming we're not swamped by some immediate and pressing need, as just referred to by CJ. So great, that's helpful. And our next topic is web pages for the CAC that would be housed on the Town of Lansing website. And like the work plan, the web pages could give us some structure and some visibility. And there are now documents that we have created that are close to being in the shape where we could actually post them on some pages for the CAC and describe a little bit more about what we're doing. So I thought it might be great for us to spend a couple minutes just talking about this idea and maybe sharing some thoughts on what we could put up there, and if anybody is interested in pulling together some of those documents. It seems like Heather might be able to actually post them. Did I get that right, CJ? That not that she has a lot of extra time, but she might be able to get something up there for us. Thoughts on web pages and what might go there in addition to like NRI and scenic resources?
I put together a vegetative buffers document that we could put on it too.
Good. Okay. And that's the same one, Tom, that you had sent out
To the planning board.
the planning board, correct?
Yeah, yes.
I mean, I guess if Heather wants to post documents there, I'm okay with it. I don't have a lot of energy around web designing and building out a site. That's not something that makes me, I'd rather spend my time on the conservation, creating the conservation documents. As we all have such limited time as it is, I can barely work on the things that I'm meant to be doing this month. Like building out a website is not my passion. If Heather, I mean, if there's a place where we can just dump the documents and a link to say, you know, this is what we're working on, here's our minutes, feel free to join us, that might be enough. I'm certainly not, I'm not excited for website work personally. Sorry to be a downer, but I said.
So about the minutes, right now they are not posted with our CAC description. Are they posted elsewhere, CJ, on the town site?
I don't think so. And that's the website is supposed to be undergoing some kind of major revamp. Not really sure exactly what's going on that front. But I have not, I would love to get my hands on that, but I am restraining myself from getting in the weeds on that. In any event, so I did just send a link. We need to update these the Laserfiche, and so I think it'd be easy probably to just make a page for CAC, the mission and vision, and kind of the statutory obligations, and then just have a link to, you know, minutes, agendas. You know, just get that cleaned up a little bit. We're kind of a little in the you know, the website has got some weird stuff going on there, so hopefully we can get that.
So is
Just
Heather,
saying that.
is Heather sort of charged with posting things on it? But there's not actually a webmaster, right? Or a consultant for the
Well, it
town.
was Dan. So Dan, who had run the Lansing Star, he was, you know, helping, or maybe wholly and unilaterally, singly maintaining the website. So, yeah. So just bear with us here. We'll, you know, that's something, you know, Heather will be able to, you know, we're working on revamping some of our processes and starting to automate them a little more. And so I think we'll get there with the website too. But Jenna Holler in the Parks Department is the kind of official town website czar, is my understanding of her title, which is really quite something. But I'm not sure exactly what the extent of this kind of scope of work that she's laboring under. So I'll try to ask Heather. I'll try to remember to ask Heather. I'll make a note here.
Or I could reach out to Jenna if you thought that was appropriate. I just wasn't sure.
Yeah, sure, of course. If you have comments on the way you'd like your web page to look, like that's totally cool. Yeah, I would
Okay.
think that would be super helpful to her because she can give you. I think she's got a little login she can share with you that can let you comment on the new website she's working on. But I think also some just maybe some framework for how you'd like the existing website to be. Then that could probably be easily transferred over. Just, you know, kind of what you want to see, I think.
Okay.
Ideally, what would you like there? It's cool. Yeah, of course. Take it away.
Yeah, my husband said, how about brief bios and pictures of CAC members? And I thought, well, I mean, we are a Lansing committee and it's good to let people know what we're doing so that they're aware. So I don't know what people think about that. What's that, Robin?
That's a very meh. I've had to do these for other projects and sites that I'm responsible for at work, and you just have to keep updating them because it changes so often as people come and go, and I don't know. I don't know how we expect people in the public to use this site, and if they need to be looking at us individually and sending us emails. I'd just assume there was like one contact email and phone number, or maybe, I don't know if a phone number is even, I guess we don't even have one, but
I think right now it just lists names. And well, just as an example, I was in another meeting today and I mentioned the Lansing's Committee on Power Plant Future. And somebody said to me, yeah, who's on that? And I said, well, it's Sue Ruoff. And I'm trying to think about Bill Claypack. I was trying to think about all the other members. And then I just went to the Lansing site. Names were all there. I cut and pasted and So, you know, I mean, it's part of visibility. Anyway, I just gave the person the list of all the people who are on the committee. So,
But you're talking
I
about
think-
something more, more comprehensive with bios and background stuff. I will not do that. I mean, if it's not part of a job that I'm getting paid for and there is a legal means to protect me from stalkers, which we barely had with my day job, it made my life hell, and I'm not going there. So I'm firm on that one. Never going there again.
I hear Karen has some severe concerns. Mine are much less severe, but I've had people just comment on my appearance from staff bio photos, and I just feel very blah about having that online. And I guess I don't care one way or the other, but having just a list of names to me is fine.
I think that's what we have right now. Yeah. So
I'm not sure it should be.
go ahead.
I'm not sure it should be a top priority right now if the town is in transition with the website.
Well, if we put anything up there, it would transfer over to the new site, right, CJ, you think?
That's my understanding, and I would say, we could probably start with getting the Laserfiche cleaned up at least, because that way, or getting everything on Laserfiche, because that's considered our kind of permanent cloud backup. So county clerks essentially run the Laserfiche platform, and it acts as like a cloud server basically for the town's documents. So it really comes in handy. So the more that we can get there and kind of just link to the different sections on the town website, then that's easily transferable, and Laserfiche may it live on forever. Hopefully.
Okay.
Carrie, another topic that may come under the purview of the CAC is this issue of road salt and brine. And there was discussion yesterday on the Lansing listserv. I didn't get any response to this, but I can tell you also from my work, I'm very aware that a lot of communities that do spread brine on their roads, which is in theory a really great idea, are using produced water from oil and gas wells, from conventional wells in New York State. I right now am going through 600 megabytes, so it's close to 1,000 pages, I think, of permits from New York State of all of the communities that have taken this waste product and spread it on their roads. And that's means that you're potentially applying radioactive materials and benzene and heavy metals to the places where we walk our dogs. And unless there was really strict oversight that the brine that is being spread on roads in Lansing, town roads, is being created from salt and not taken as a waste product because it's cheap from oil and gas wells, of which there are thousands and thousands not very far away. It's just something to put in the hopper for.
Karen, are they actually spreading brine in Lansing?
The state was spraying brine on the state highways, I know, but there's discussion right now of switching from rock salt to brine on the roads, which is in theory a really great idea. It is, I think, more effective. But it's just how the material is being sourced that I'm concerned with.
I've heard that brine, while being very effective, also damages roads because it penetrates the roads more than the salt, the solid salt. So it's very effective as a de-icer, but it's also more corrosive than just salt in terms of road damage.
Well, let's keep our eyes and ears open. Karen, sounds like you're more up to date on that than many of us. So we'll consider for the future whether we get into that.
Yeah, I mean, it would be,
Um,
probably it's worth the call to the Division of Mineral Resources at the DEC to just see how they're regulating this, because, you know, they did close that fracking loophole, which now does not, the fracking waste was exempted previously from regulations, but this isn't really fracking. This is just the water that's continually produced from oil and gas wells. Is just a course of how those things work. Those big, you know, plastic tanks that you often see next to conventional vertical wells have that, and it has to be disposed of somehow. And so it's often used on site for dust control, but sometimes it's collected. So it's really a policy level thing at the town highway department, I think.
Yep. Okay, well, let's move on to the scenic resources inventory, which is definitely taking shape. I sent out what I believe is the latest version, and it's one that Robin, Tom, and Karen have all worked pretty hard on. So you should have the latest version of that in your inbox. And Robin, you had a couple of questions on the text that I thought might be good for us to just address while we're together here. I don't know if you want to bring that up, or
The text of the
that you had,
kind of introductory material, or the
that you had, yep. I think you had put a few questions in the Google Doc. And maybe they're so minor that you're not too worried about it, but I thought I'd give you a chance to just bring it up.
Well, as I guess the questions that I'm seeing are just, right now I'm kind of writing a lot of X number of sites and Y number of view sheds, because I don't know the final number of sites that we have adopted, if the new ones are all in and the old ones, some of them got deleted. So I have some questions about that in there. I added a paragraph about the scenic byway. And I kind of have some placeholder text about the view shed, kind of just waiting to see what conditions are going to be there. So I'm just trying to write some introductory material, but right now I feel like there's still some holes in my knowledge of how many there's ultimately going to be. So I think these are pretty minor questions that will sort themselves out once we know how many view shed analyses there are going to be, how many maps, how many points we decide on. I think some of the sites are deleted, and some of them have notes about, combine this one with another one, like 59 and 60 should be the same point. So I guess I'm just still not entirely sure exactly how many there will be.
Yeah, so maybe we should go ahead and sort that out right now, because I think our goal is to see if we can't get this into kind of a final form. So let's see, that's pretty much your first comment, I think, right? Total number of resources. You have 66, right? Am I in the right spot? Method of selection?
Yeah. I think that was just from the original inventory from the Tompkins County Scenic.
Okay. So actually, maybe that's not, is that in question then?
Well, yes.
think with some that when we did our rating, that one rating sheet where we all averaged out our responses and people had done their voting. There were some that were like trash piles, and people gave them a 0. So that's one place where you could go back to the Excel spreadsheet.
So there were about 66 sites or something from the county, but then we had all these proposed sites. And so we have to figure out which one of the counties and the proposed sites we want in the Lansing inventory. And I'm not sure that's all been sorted out yet.
No, it was not sorted out. We went through about half of the sites and then got distracted and never completed that task. Like 3 months ago.
So
You
we
might have
should,
missed a meeting, Karen. Did you miss the one where we went through and voted and added our comments?
I don't know.
Yeah, because we definitely had one where we had, not positive you were there, Karen. We had a tally, and then we had an average, and then we had a cutoff. Does that ring a bell?
Well, what I'm talking about was that when we had gone through and talked about each of the sites that we had worked on, and we only got through half of them then. So maybe you did that at the meeting that I missed. It seemed like it was we were looking at the pictures and the map, and each person who reviewed that site talked about it, so we could. Maybe I'm just misremembering the whole thing and it's all completed. I don't think that I have current information then.
I don't think it's completed yet. I think we have to sort out the ones we decided on and the proposed ones. Or the ones that we picked from the county and the proposed ones. But we do, so how many do we have in that Excel sheet? How many sites?
56 in the most recent draft.
And, okay. Well, we should probably start with getting all those squared away.
And so that's, Carrie, that reflects the ones that had been marked as delete, that those are no longer in.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just looking at that now. And as far as I can tell, anything marked delete is deleted.
Okay. So I need to update. I need to update the map then. I didn't know that there'd been an agreement on that. And then there were some that had question marks next to them.
Well, we have some that are not numbered because they were proposed. So.
And somewhere I
Yeah, I
saw
don't
the
know.
one in question, sorry.
Go ahead, John.
One was in question from some of the stuff I just reviewed that's up by Brickyard that looks down like past the church and toward the school. And it was asking whether or not we wanted that kept or deleted. And in my opinion, with as much power line as there is in the photograph, it doesn't look like anything I would think we would want to keep. But if anyone's familiar with the one I'm talking about.
Is that one of my points?
I am not sure.
That one might have been on the scenic byway. Let me pull it up.
It's Brickyard and 34, right? Near the
34B.
church. 34B, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, looking west, like towards the school and the lake, but
You can see the
majority
lake.
of what we
Yeah.
see is a power pole and power line. So
Right.
I
I
think, I
remember.
think that I think that view is nicer if you're not standing at the exact coordinate that the point was on. That might have been one I suggested a different coordinate. And, you know, if you just kind of like look over here at the lake, it was a little nicer than the original direction, which was looking into the parking lot of the church. So I'm not sure if the adjustment made it into the new document, or, you know, I guess I wouldn't base it on the original photo, because originally we were vetting those orientations and coordinates, and so for many of them I did take a new coordinate and a different angle of view. So I'm just not remembering, so give me a moment. I'm just going to look in my folder with the photos to see if I have any better
Karen,
memory. But
can I ask you about the numbering? Some of the original numbers came from the county, right?
Yeah, I just ditched those.
You ditched those?
I did. Yeah, I've been using numbers just for Lansing.
Okay, so we have our own numbering system, and they're also organized by subsection of Lansing, right?
Well, I mean, that was for convenience. There wasn't a real like geographic reason for that. It was just trying to split things up so we could get kind of equal coverage for all the people who were working on it.
So it's easy now having a map that would show these different sites. Would it make sense for us to number basically from one end of Lansing to the other, and just give each of these sites a number that doesn't replicate another number? Because maybe I'm wrong in this, that I was thinking that some of the numbers repeated, but maybe that's not true.
I mean, in some cases, you took 2 points at what had been a single point before.
Okay.
I remember that happened a couple of times, and then down in the Labavo area, there were 2 that were from kind of a similar point, and so we were talking about consolidating stuff. But yeah, I think that there's a whole lot that could be done to tidy that whole list up right now.
So how big a job would it be to renumber according to the points that we have left? Because right now, I think there are ones that we have ditched, but they still retain a number.
Well, I mean, it depends on what we're going to use the numbers for. I mean, if you want the map to still work, I would have to go back in and change all of the links for all of the photographs if the numbers that match each photo were to change. That would take a couple of hours probably. And re-upload that thing. I'm just not sure what. Yeah, I mean, if we're throwing the map away, I guess that's okay. Let the online one, because then those pictures don't matter at all. But
that seems kind of a shame to do that, though.
Well, then, I mean, if there's going to be another document that says used to be called 36, now called 32, it just, I think it just sounds like a headache. And I mean, maybe you want to hand that off to the county and let them deal with it, because I don't really want to do that.
I'm just thinking of a map of the scenic resources that would be part of the appendix. And on that map, you could see the different points that are numbered. And then in the descriptions, there would be that same number. And we could do that with what we have right now. But the numbers would skip all the deleted or demoted sites. Which is maybe, maybe that's okay. Because right now, we've got the view sheds and the photographs and the descriptions for the top 20 or so, right, Tom?
Well, we still need to give a map area and a number for the proposed sites. I mean, we know which map area they are in, but they don't have a site number.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure that the list has to be in chronological order, whatever you want to call it. I mean, if you skip a number or something, it's.
I mean, I could just, just redo the map. It's just that the interactive one and the thing that you put into the report are not going to necessarily be consistent with each other. And I think that, if you're looking at one and then look for this number on the other document, it could get confusing, but maybe it doesn't really matter, especially if that map, the interactive map, was just for internal use and, and getting this thing together, which is kind of how I thought of it in the first place. But then there seemed to be other ideas about that. So yeah, I mean, if you want to renumber things, I can redo it for the final publicized one.
Tom, it sounds like you're saying at least the proposed sites would need numbers.
Right.
assigned to them.
They do. They don't have numbers yet.
Yeah. What if we were to start with that?
Just assign numbers to the proposed sites.
Yeah, that sounds like one benefit would be that it would still cohere with the interactive map until we know for sure what will happen with that interactive map, because right now it's useful to us.
That's
then-
extremely useful.
Yeah. And given that this is a draft, we could at least have numbers for all of the sites and the proposed sites. So they kind of join the family of the numbered. And then we could create a static map for the scenic resources appendix. And we would at least have this much done for that draft.
I'm willing to put some more time into doing more of the sites. The descriptions are very minimal. I think if people wanted to add to the descriptions, that would be great, especially people that are more familiar with particular sites. But I could keep, I think we have 19 now, and I could keep going. And do, if we have 50 or 60, I could do that.
We want a page for every point, or I assume you've been doing just the top most scenic one?
Well, I've done 19. If we have 60 or 66 points, I could do the rest. And if we want to eliminate some, we could do that too.
Wow, that's a great offer, Tom. There's certainly no harm in doing that. And there might be a great benefit to it.
Yeah, and then people can look at it, and if they want to change the descriptions, or add another sentence to it or whatever, that would be great.
And so would we just go with the view sheds on the ones that Karen has done and say that these are our top sites? But here are photographs and small descriptions of the remaining 40 or however many.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Tom, I noticed when you did the layout, or the way the viewshed maps are put in, is that just as a placeholder, or is that how you're going to display them in the final? I'm just saying that, like, for the amount of information that's in all of them, making them like quarter page size, I don't think is going to help anybody really understand, because they're pretty tiny.
Right. No, I'd get rid of those. I think when I redid all of them with your new view sheds, I only use that map on the first template to see what kind of way to show where it is, but I don't think that's necessary for each one.
What I'm saying is I think that the maps would be more useful as, full page.
One full page for all of them. Is that what you mean?
No, each
I
view
think
shed,
Karen's talking about the view sheds.
the view shed maps, I think they need to be larger than you've squished them down pretty small.
We just decided to try to do everything on one page, and that obviously didn't work when I included two pictures. Like Ludlowville Falls, there was a picture in the summer, and I thought it was really nice to include the picture in the winter too, because it's pretty impressive in the winter. So yes, we don't have to have each site limited to one page. And if you want to put the view shed as a whole page or a half page, whatever, that's fine.
I wonder, Karen, would it be feasible, logical if we took, and by we I mean you, took some of the best, most scenic views? It would get crazy if you did 20, but maybe like the top 5, and see what the areas of overlap are. Like, this is the like core of the best scenic area, and have that be kind of the overlay district that we want to protect? Or does it make more sense to have just each one stand as its own? I guess I'm thinking about, like, finding like our untouchable zone, that like this appeared, this particular spot over whatever, looking over Cuba Lake was overlapped like 5 different times, and that therefore is a really good spot, and we don't want to develop it. Or is the idea?
Yeah, I mean, the views across the lake, first of all, the views across the lake are, they're mostly all distant views, and you can see them from a lot of places. So,
but they're out of the town of Lansing, a lot of it,
a lot of them are out of the town, which doesn't preclude keeping them in, because if there's an awesome spot that you can see a distant view from, it's still worthy of, worthy of noting. But I understand what you're getting at, Robin, but I think that all of these spots are pretty far apart, and I think we can kind of agree that the view down the lake from many places in Lansing is going to be important.
Okay.
I don't know. It's
sure
a lot of it is a question of of what we're trying to accomplish with the view sheds also, because, they're not going to necessarily be synonymous with the perfect spots of most beauty, because some of those spots are pretty intimate, and some of those really big sweeping views where you can see several square miles are kind of just, big views, which are
Yes,
nice,
maybe
but not necessarily special.
right. Maybe a better question would have been, as you're doing them and you're, sort of assimilating this information, is there any particular area that stands out as would be a really great parcel to preserve for the views? Like land along Trip Hammer Road is just being cobbled up really quickly, and it has really nice views, and we all like it comes up in a number of different view sheds, and therefore, we should try to go after landowners along Trip Hammer, or just as an example, something like that. I guess it could be more of a heuristic process or an intuitive guess versus an actual overlaying of things that may not make sense. But are you seeing any like coalescing around like some really high value real estate that should be targeted?
I mean, I think that one's a perfect example. Like we all kind of know it anyway.
Like for example, the Lab of Ornithology, I just recently learned, is adding 80 new acres around the Lab of Ornithology. So they've already purchased it. It's done. Maybe we don't, maybe, we can feel good about, they've got some new real estate there. So maybe we should, can we be looking for other scenic, lovely areas that might need some additional acreage purchased?
Yeah, that's awesome. Are they getting that from, is that some of the Cornell land, or is it off in the other direction?
It's adjacent to the Cornell owned property. I think it must have been a private parcel that was between one Cornell land and the lab. I can send you a photo of it. I'm a little fuzzy since I haven't been there yet and haven't been to the lab.
Yeah, no, that's
a long time. But I haven't.
I mean, there was all of that swampy land that Lucenti was trying to develop that was just like contested for a long time also up there, like south.
I can send you.
Okay, all right. I don't want to get distracted by that.
Well, let's just make a few decisions about if Tom were to continue to compile, what do we want the final document to look like? Tom, you said there's a need for expanded descriptions.
Well, if people want to add to them, if the descriptions are pretty minimal.
They are.
But to me, the pictures and the view sheds, I think, tell a good story of the site.
Karen, you're suggesting that the view shed photos be larger.
The maps.
The view shed maps be larger.
I think it would be helpful. I mean, that's just from viewing it on the screen. It seemed like they were kind of like the detail was lost.
So do you want them to be a full page?
I would think so. I mean, because if you make them a half page, they're really quarter size.
Well, let's try it, because I mean the size of the picture is no big deal. It can be changed very simply.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
And are we missing any pictures for any of the locations currently, or need ones that are going to maybe look better here in a few weeks when everything's greening up versus what they were?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think changing the pictures is, again, if we have them, it's no big deal to switch them from wherever they are to in the document. And, right now it's a Word document. Maybe there's a better format, but that's the one I'm most familiar with. So that's why I did it in that format.
Sometimes PowerPoint works nicely for layout.
Yeah, I like PowerPoint. I could do it in PowerPoint because then you can put things side by side a lot easier. And if I'm making a poster, I always go to PowerPoint. So I could switch it to
Fine with
PowerPoint.
that? Would
So
there be any
if
disadvantage?
if it's a PowerPoint, so each slide would be a page. Is that how we would have it? If it's in PowerPoint?
And then
Yeah.
maybe the description could be combined with the first photo or something. I'm just thinking about the portability of this document and what other uses we would have for it. You know, we're going to append it to the NRI. Are there any limitations with PowerPoint that we wouldn't have with Word?
I don't think so. I mean, you turn it into a PDF and it's good to go.
Yeah, okay. Let me try to do it in PowerPoint. I'll go back to the original 19 and start there. And if I get that done in a reasonable amount of time, I'll keep going with the other sites.
I mean, before you do that, Tom, do we want to like have the text for the descriptions done before you do it in PowerPoint as a final layout? I mean, I find that editing stuff in PowerPoint is a little bit more cumbersome than having it in one Word document and then just splitting it up and dropping it. But that's my process, and
Yeah,
that may not be yours.
I don't think it's a big deal to change the descriptions later on if people want to change them.
It does seem like a bit of work for you to convert it to PowerPoint. And I'm just wondering, why couldn't we leave it in Word and just expand the size of the viewshed map? And I'm just a little concerned about your time.
One thing that would be nice about PowerPoint is that I'm not sure how to put pictures side by side in Word unless the pictures are combined first and then added to Word. Whereas with PowerPoint, I could easily put them side by side.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like it would be difficult to then, edit it as a document and put it back into some kind of PDF that we could edit. I'm just a little concerned about PowerPoint as a unstable way to manage this document.
I mean, at least while it's a draft.
Okay, so we'll leave it as Word, and I can do more than one page per site.
Yeah, I feel
okay. That's fine.
That for some reason. We know a little more. Okay, and you will add more. And Karen, do you want to assign the numbers to the proposed sites so that you are in control of that system?
Including renumbering all of the existing ones?
It doesn't sound like we're going that route.
Yeah, I'm not sure we have to renumber what we already have. But if on your map, when you click on the proposed ones, if you can add, the number, the area is obvious because it's in a certain area. That would be great.
Okay.
And then would we be able to get from you, Karen, a map that would be on one 8.5 by 11 page in Tom's document that would show all of the numbered sites?
Sure.
So that somebody can correlate the photo and the viewshed map with the site on the map of Lansing?
Yeah, sure, totally. Do you also, Tom, I keep meaning to ask you, do you want latitude and longitude to add into your document for each of the sites too?
It's in there.
It is?
Yeah. It's,
okay.
Yeah, because you provided that, Karen, and then I just gave that to Tom. Yeah.
Okay.
Great. That's awesome.
It's in there where I have a latitude and longitude. Some of the sites don't have latitude and longitude.
Oh, okay. Well, do you want me to generate those for all of them then and get them to you?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, that's awesome. So we want to provide this to the town board so that they can bless it as a package. I don't think the word is blessed, but that's what's coming to me. I think we're going to have some resolution in May, right? But then we need to kind of introduce it in April. But they need to see a copy of the scenic resources inventory, correct? CJ?
Yeah, it'd be nice if we could kind of package that up together. Now, I'll say this, if we could get it to them by, let's see, I think I have a space held, I'm not in front of my whiteboard, but I can put a reminder in my phone for Monday. If I think I've held the space on the agenda. The agenda for April is like totally out of hand, so it'll have to be, pretty quick. It'll have to be, 10 minutes tops. Unlike, these are the salient points. Here's a link to the document you can preview. And so if you guys can get me by close of business, let's call it on Wednesday, April 14th. If you can get me all the PDFs or kind of the whatever, it doesn't matter what they are, InDesign, PowerPoint, Word, whatever you want.
I can't have it done by April 14th.
Okay.
I mean, I just don't think I can.
Okay, no worries. Is there any way that we can, how about this? Could we have a PowerPoint or some kind of very brief presentation, like 5 slides on the project itself by then? So kind of like maybe a snapshot of the cover, maybe a little bit of detail, maybe an example or two of one of the viewshed maps, maybe a screen grab of one of the sections, like, I don't know, geology or wetlands or something like that, and kind of describe a little bit of the detail, and then kind of an anticipated timeline. And then what we could do is package it up for them short. If you give me a time of an estimated completion, then we can put that in front of them in the in that piece. And remember, we could just append that on. I really want to get the natural resources inventory document in front of them. And then if we have to send the scenic one, the scenic edition or whatever we're calling it, appendix, as a separate kind of piece, that's totally cool. And I don't mean to put the pressure on you. I'm not saying we have to have this done right this second, but I know you guys want to get moving on this and would like to see it kind of part of the canon here.
Your deadline's the 14th on that for essentially, we're now backing it off to say it like a presentation to the town board. And is the town board meeting on the 21st?
That's correct, yeah. So I like to make sure they get everything about a week in advance, just so they have a chance to look at it and check it over. But if we're going for final adoption in May, and another thing I could do is we could get them that link to, which I think I've actually already sent them, but the link to the Adobe kind of cloud version of the NRI. We could send them the link to that to kind of start with and say, the scenic piece will be forthcoming, and we could maybe send just a couple examples of that. I think that would be, the NRI itself is a lot to hold them over, just in the interim.
Yeah.
You have 20 pages of the scenic resources thing right now. I mean, that would give them a very good idea.
This is good flavor, right? So what we could do is, we can kind of, if you guys want to coordinate with me on exactly what you want to get to them, let's say, by let's say the 14th, then what we can do is, just put together something short and sweet. Like they're not going to have a lot of time. Like their attention is on so many things in April, that I think 10 minutes of like, here's what we've been up to. We circulated this to planning board, kind of like an overview of kind of where the project is, where it's headed. And then, say, we're working with CJ, reviewed by council to have a resolution in front of you at the May meeting. Thanks very much and call us if you have questions kind of thing. So,
Okay, so sort of a heads up. I could commit to drafting the PowerPoint if I don't know, Karen, is it realistic that by the 13th you could maybe give me the map so I could just show them all the points and
Oh, yeah, I mean, I could, sure. I mean, I could do that by the weekend. That's not a big deal.
we're talking 5 or 6 slides and
Mhm.
a quick presentation and
we could take a screen grab of your the cloud map you've created too. You could just quick screenshot and boom, like.
So this is more of you're saying this is more of an update to the town board, not asking them to approve the thing intact, because they're not gonna, I mean, there's some people who probably would, but I know that there are others who are gonna want to like go through it with a fine-tooth comb and look for, all of the details. And so are you saying,
Well, that's what I'm
saying that
suggesting.
this like 5-slide thing to give to them is in lieu of the full document?
No, what I'm thinking is yes and no, right? So what I'm thinking is get the draft, which the draft natural resources inventory minus the scenic inventory, I think is pretty much ready to roll in front of them,
Mhm.
right? So what I'm thinking is having like a brief kind of presentation to them on the natural resources itself, maybe like I was saying, with a couple of kind of screen grabs of like, here's an
Mhm.
example of it, a link to that document, which they can then see that planning board members have commented, you guys have commented, others have commented, and just get that document in front of them, and that way they can start reviewing kind of what I see as the meat, of the
Mhm.
really substantial part of that over an entire month, and they can add
Mhm.
comments, they can ask me questions, they can take an entire month, and then that way, when we get to May 19th, they'll have a more robust kind of fleshing out of the scenic part of that. Does that
Mhm.
make sense? And do you
Mhm.
think, I mean, this is just a suggestion. I'm not an edict or anything, just kind of
no,
an idea.
I think that would work, especially because they have a heads up with the link. We're going to give them that link could go in the agenda, and then this would just be an intro to here's what we've been doing. This is going to be coming up for your acceptance. We're introducing it now with this little 5 to 7 minute intro, maybe some Q&A. Yeah, and then we can get on the agenda for the 21st for just a few minutes.
With a more robust, maybe plan for a little bit longer at the May meeting, but again, May could be even crazier, so and they see they get a ton of paper, so we kind of want to make it as exciting for them kind of as we can. So and then that would give us some time really, I think, as far as their review, I think for the natural resources inventory kind of main document itself, if we were just to append some kind of, even just a screen grab from Karen's map with the full kind of appendix to follow, because it's a lot of photos and maps and stuff, like it'll be fully fleshed out. I think if we're able to do that kind of, let's call it by the end of the first week in May, which gives you one more meeting to do this. Then you're packaging a full document in front of them, ready to go with weeks of review ahead of time, on, Wednesday, the 19th.
Does that feel better, Tom, for you?
Yeah, definitely. The NRA the NRI is basically ready to go, right? I mean, we could send them that very
That was
soon
the NRA, by the way.
without the scenic resources inventory part.
Here, let me pop a link right here. I think you can, just so you know, like this is kind of what I would do is take this and then just append whatever you have ready to go basically by, let's call it close of business on April 14th. You know, whatever, I mean, in a reasonably, you know, kind of even if it's in a drafty form, like that's okay. Like I said, even if it's just like a screen grab of Karen's cool cloud map, that's kind of enough as a placeholder, I think, until you get to the fully fleshed out piece. And I mean, that I think they'll really dig it. I think it's kind of a cool way to
Okay.
present the information. So
Yeah, we could probably do that.
And then, so who would like to be at that presentation? I'm willing. I'm willing to be there. It's a Zoom meeting, right? Okay. And it's
this
on
is
the
what we
20.
do now. So
Yeah. And it starts at 6 or
6:30.
30.
Yep, 6:30.
Okay. And do we know when we would come on the agenda?
I'll make sure you get the copy of the agenda and everything, and we can coordinate all that as well. Just so, and I can make sure, you know, basically whatever you've got on close of business on the 14th, what we can do is I can make sure the town clerk and the town board essentially get a copy of that, you know, with bullet points of kind of highlights for them, along with the link. So it's kind of short and sweet, and here's what CAC is working on, and we want to get this in front of you for your consideration. And also, we'll be preparing a draft resolution for your consideration in May, and that'll give them a chance to say like, whoa, what is this? You know, what's up with that? But this is not new to them. I mean, it's shown up in countless monthly reports from me. This is not like a surprise out of left field. So
Okay.
just want to be clear about that.
Do we have any pull over when we come in the agenda? Just because I have a 7 o'clock meeting that night. I'm just thinking, I'm happy to do this, but
We can put you at
I
the
don't
very
know.
end. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, God, right? What
Well,
time is that? 10 o'clock. If any,
well,
I'm happy to
here's
pull the slides together.
Carrie,
Well-
Anybody else?
I'll be at the meeting too.
Okay, so if I need to bail, you might be on, Tom.
I
I
mean,
can
and
put
what
this, I'll put the slides together.
Yeah, and here's the thing, if you guys can't make it, I could always just, you know, kind of pop the 5-minute overview into my town board report. That's cool. Also, I just want to mention that Terry Carroll got booted from the last agenda because it went on forever on the public safety discussion. Not forever, but it was a protracted discussion, shall we say, relative to the incidents that had happened the previous weekend. And so Terry was going to come and talk about the Clean Energy Communities leadership round, and he got kicked to April. So a lot of things got kicked to April. So that's why I'm kind of trying to say, you know, we've got their attention for a really kind of short time.
Maybe we should
So
go for 5 minutes, yeah.
right, 5 minutes, 5 slides, 5 minutes.
Okay. All right, okay.
Just friendly advice, but you know, we can
Okay.
coordinate on the agenda, and I'll try to, you know, obviously work with the town clerk and try to get you early as soon as
Okay.
possible.
All right. That sounds great. It sounds like it's me and Tom. Everybody else is just so eager to be there, but sorry, there's just not room for everybody. Sorry.
You could show up
Okay.
and wave hello.
This is looking good. And so as far as the actual scenic resources inventory, not the little presentation we're giving to the town board, when should we aim for having that ready?
Packaged and ready to go by close of business Wednesday, May 12th.
Okay, I'm going to say Tuesday, May 11th.
I won't even come close to don't rush. I've got a back-to-back meetings and probably zoning board as well. So, end of the day on the 12th is totally fine because I won't get to it till the 13th anyway.
Does that sound reasonable? That's mostly you, Tom, and some information from Karen.
Do our best.
Okay, all right, great. Yeah, and we'll review next meeting what's there. And I'm happy to work with you, Tom and Karen, on how our whole list looks, all those points, and whether there's something on there that shouldn't be, or whether something got lost in translation of the 56 points. Okay, people are getting tired, I know. I just did want to bring Robin and John and Karen up to speed on the meeting that we had with Cornell Real Estate about the Cornell Orchards on Sweezy Road. Did you have a question, Robin?
Are we moving off of the scenic resources?
Yeah. Go ahead. Did you have something?
I just wanted to raise a point that you made in an email that Karen needed guidance on the view shed, and maybe Karen no longer do, about the autumnal versus spring conditions, or leaf on, leaf off. Or did you make that? Did you make that decision already, Karen? Sounds like you've already been.
Good point.
What I ended up doing was creating leaf on conditions for the views that were kind of interior and intimate, and left it at leaf off for the ones that were long views across the lake, because we really were not gaining any additional detail, and it would have been extra work to make the data for the other side of the lake also. So I think we're fine. I think we're fine.
Leaf on and deciduous conditions for the intimate views.
Yeah, and it's not only leaf on, it's like plants on. It's bare earth versus vegetation is really how it is.
Okay. You no longer need any input. We don't need to.
Not at this point.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Robin, because originally we were going to put it out to the CAC, and then Karen, I think you went ahead and made a decision so you could get them done. Okay, so the Cornell Orchards meeting on Tuesday, CJ, Tom, Dave Wolf, and I met by Zoom with Jeremy, who's the director of Cornell Real Estate, Kristen Gutenberger, who's, I think, like a assistant director, and then they had some support, a support person also there. Essentially, in a nutshell, they told us that Cornell does plan to sell 70 of the 96 acres of the orchards. They're going to keep 20 to 25 acres that contain the buildings. There's a barn there, and I presume some of the research plots are going to be retained, and they're going to still practice agriculture on those plots. So they're going to bring the 70 acres to market, and they said they did not necessarily plan to sell to the highest bidder, because there's bidder as in BIDDER, because they are going to maintain an agricultural presence, and they were looking for some type of alignment with the future of the entire site.
Yes.
They originally said they wanted to work collaboratively with the town, and we jumped all over that and said, wow, we're really glad to hear that. Now, I think they backed off that, that word collaborative a little bit, but they did ask us about the NRI. They asked about the Scenic Resources Inventory. They asked about the CAC and what our purpose was. And they wanted to see our documents, and they're interested in seeing the Scenic Resources Inventory. And they asked us what our worst case scenario was. We mentioned unique natural areas and how important that was to both the CAC and also the town. And we left feeling like they'd heard us, but we are very aware that they have this fiduciary responsibility to the university. It looks like they probably are going to try to subdivide so that there's the 70-acre parcel and the 25-acre. I don't know, CJ and Tom, do you want to add anything in regard to what you gained from the meeting?
I think they're gonna, well, they implied that it's probably gonna go on the market in a couple of months. And they are going to not necessarily sell it to the highest bidder. They like the idea of, they like the idea of somebody buying the whole parcel and maybe putting one house on it, and the rest of it could be some kind of easement. But if they sell it to one person who wants to put a house on it, that person can do whatever he wants, basically. So I came away with the impression that there's not much that the town of Lansing can do about it. It's Cornell land, and they're gonna try to make some money by selling a big chunk of it that they don't use. And we talked
Has
about.
occurred to me.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, so I came away feeling that we don't really have much to say that can influence them in any way. And I came away with the idea they're certainly not going to bequeath to the town some of that parcel of land to set aside as a natural area. How about you, CJ? What do you think?
Well, that's kind of why I asked them about, where really they were in the process, in terms of where they saw the entitlements. So, sometimes developers will, walk a parcel, especially a large parcel like that, through the development process to get entitlements in place, meaning like, kind of almost master plan out a parcel, figure out, what the full build out is, and kind of come up with all that, and then sell it kind of almost like a turnkey kind of thing, like almost like a basically, if you've already got all of your municipal approvals for things like, water hookups, or, the way the road layouts would be, or, basically a full development plan or rezoning or something like that, then it changes the value of the property, basically, in a nutshell. But it doesn't sound like that's what they're doing. It looks like they're just, minor subdivision of the property. Here's, they'll hack it off into 2 parcels, and then that's it. And then it'll go on some kind of market, private market, commercial market. I don't know. I don't know where they're planning to sell it.
One thing that occurred to me is that Cargill has mined a 5-tunnel section of the Cornell orchard land, 2,000 feet down from pretty much the eastern corner of the orchards all the way to the railroad tracks. And something that has come up in our neighborhood is that there's a suspicion that at least one house that has been built over that tunnel, a new home has subsided because the tunnels are constantly shrinking under the ground. And Cornell orchard land, if it were heavily developed, could also gradually shrink if homes were built on, even if homes are not built on there, it's probably shrinking already, it's compressing. So I don't know whether Cornell would consider, just deeding to the town, or whether the town would even accept it. But would Cornell real estate consider just taking the portion that lies over the mined area and letting the town have that? I don't know. But it seems like if they are to sell that land, they're either going to retain their rights to the to whatever salt is mined from those tunnels, or it's going to convey with the land. I don't know what we are able to do as a CAC, but I suppose it wouldn't hurt to put something in writing, at least about our hopes for the future of that parcel, since it's included in the scenic resources inventory. At least we could put something in writing. I don't know how far, I doubt it would hold much weight, but is that beyond our legislative purview, or can we put an oar in the water to say thanks for meeting with us, and here are some thoughts about that parcel and its value to the town?
Yeah, any
Sounds
of the
like-
scenic points should have a description, right? Like you guys have been working on the couple sentence blurbs on it. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you met with them and found that out. They're greedy and reprehensible is all I can say. I mean, that's really, there you have it for all the world to see on YouTube. Greedy and reprehensible Cornell. Got it. So,
Karen, you were at the last meeting with Cornell about the orchards, an in-person meeting, right?
yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, my experience with Cornell is they're gonna do what they want.
Exactly. They're not good neighbors.
They're not looking for advice from outsiders on what they're gonna do.
Nope, they're bullies also. And that's what I was getting at before. They were complete bullies and obstructionistic, and meddled in the good work that the EMC was doing on the unique natural areas for their own profit and gain, and they're reprehensible.
Well, they met with us, so
Yeah,
I
good
thought
for
it
them.
was a positive step.
Yeah, I mean,
And
nice for them to share that.
they filled us in. We've been in communication for a couple of years. So now it's just a question of whether the CAC has any potential role in the future of that parcel, given our mission for land preservation in Lansing.
Probably not. Although, I think that's great that if, I know that whole story about the subsidence of the house near you was kind of secret for a while. And if people are coming forward and willing to talk about it, then, I think that's great. I mean, that was all sort of hush hush for a while. But I guess it's public now, or at least now in the last 10 minutes, it is.
I know, it did occur to me.
Yeah.
Well, if all of you could think creatively, I believe in miracles, but not quite sure what will happen here. It's a little sad thinking about the character of the region changing so quickly with so much development. This is just one more story. So
Well,
we can,
if one person buys it and puts up a couple of houses and the rest of it stays natural, that's all well and good.
How much do you think they're selling it for, Tom, that it would be affordable for one person to buy 70 acres of prime lakefront?
So CJ and Carrie and I were actually talking about what it's appraised at 400,000, but it's worth much more than that.
Right.
It's probably, 2 million, I don't know. But somebody from New York City who wants to move upstate and has $2 million, it's not a big deal. And, they might have $50 million. So $2 million is not a big deal to them. And they'd have a nice private estate overlooking a beautiful lake. Cornell did say that they would, it would be nice if any development that occurred on it was sort of a small cluster development and most of it stayed natural. They thought that would be great. But of course,
nice.
Yeah, but they're not, I doubt if they're going to stipulate that.
Yeah, but the planning board can require that as part of a major subdivision review. They can mandate the request for conservation.
okay, so CJ, that would happen at the next subdivision though, not the initial minor subdivision, right?
This is just a
very
land
theoretical.
subdivision. Land subdivisions are pretty straightforward, and the planning board doesn't have much to say about it. It's, you want to split your land 26 acres and 70 acres, that's fine.
Okay.
It'd be no big deal.
So then,
But then if somebody comes along and who buys it and then wants to develop it, then they have to come before the planning board.
Question mark, right?
and
If it's a
and
single
that's when-
family home on 70 acres, they come in for a building permit. If it's, 26 single family homes, that's a major subdivision. That's a different ballgame
Mhm.
or more.
So I think the question, what happens to it, really is not going to be resolved with Cornell selling it to somebody else. It'll be
think so.
after that.
Mhm. Okay. All right.
Well, it was a great orchard, and I can speak for myself and the dozens of other people who were employed picking apples there over the years. It's really tragic.
Well, the apples are still going to be there, I think.
No.
No?
Trees are
Okay.
gone. A lot of the trees are gone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there may be a day in the future when our CAC is a very powerful conservation board, but we're still in our infancy. And right now we are the eyes and the ears for the town. And I think, each one of us lives in a different spot and we see different things happening. And so I would just say, let's just keep on keeping on with what we're doing. And we're gradually getting documentation in place and we're doing the best that we can. The more experience we get, the more instances that occur like this, the more prepared we can be in the future to have our overlays ready and our documents all lined up in a row. So it's sobering though.
So just to make sure I understand, the town or the conservation committee, whatever, we don't have any, is there a funding mechanism, or is the only way that we can preserve this land to just ask them nicely to make some kind of gift or low cost
They
sale
won't do
to the
that.
town?
They won't do that.
Even if so if the town could come up with the $400,000, they would not sell it for that. Is that what you're saying?
It's worth a lot more than $400,000. Is what we think.
Well, in the town, has to, there's mechanisms by which the town would have to come up with that kind of money too. It'd have to be substantiated in a plan. Um, like for instance, like Bell Station appears in the comprehensive plan, which is cool. So that kind of opens a lot of doors. But you know, the town would have to, you know, there would be a whole process, right? Like it has to be appraised, and the town can't really battle on the open market for land. That's not really obviously, you know, speaking of fiduciary duty, right? You know, going on a spree with taxpayer dollars is obviously not what municipalities are slow and deliberate, right? By and large. So.
So if we have to make choices, then, you know, we spend, if there even is money, like grant money or whatever, you know, on Bell Station versus the orchards, it probably makes sense for this committee to decide what priorities there are and not just willy-nilly react to development, as sad as it is. You know, if there's really only the capacity to save one or two parcels in the next 5 years, we should be strategic about it. And maybe this is that parcel, maybe it's not, maybe it's Bell Station. My concern with Bell Station is very similar, that it's not currently for sale and it's just kind of sitting there undeveloped. And as soon as, my perspective is that as soon as we start asking around, like, do you want to buy it? Do you, or, you know, can we, is it for sale? Can we have the right of first refusal? Can we do that? That they're just gonna, then they are gonna take it to the open market and say, well, you know, we don't care about you. We want to sell it for what it's worth, because that's a multinational company.
The Finger Lakes Land Trust is, and DEC is very interested in the Bell Station land. So, and that's, to me, is much more valuable land because it's real lakeshore frontage. And the you know, all those shallow areas, they're prime wildlife habitat. So I don't think there's, I think it's way more valuable in terms of a natural resource, the Bell Station land, than this land, which is sitting up on top of a hill and just has a steep slope down to the railroad track.
So I may be outdated on this, but I thought the Bell Station land wasn't for sale. Is that changing under the Finger Lakes Land Trust pressure?
Say that again. I didn't hear that.
I thought Bell Station wasn't for sale.
It's not.
I think the plan is to have it become a wildlife management area, and the Andy Zepp is working with the parties, the state, you know, to try to get it to become a wildlife management area.
Yeah, Robin, it's kind of a weird process because NYSEG's a utility. They have to get Public Service Commission permission to divest of the property. So it's got to go through this whole, you know, bid process and sale process. But yeah, my understanding is that the DEC has made it very clear that because that land is in the state's open space plan, see how that comes in handy, then they're able to, you know, make appropriations, you know, to be able to buy the piece that's, you know, relevant for their conservation purposes, while possibly also allowing NYSEG to divest of the land for, you know, other purposes, i.e. utility scale solar development.
Okay, so they could just as easily make that choice. It's really that's really up to their real estate department, right?
Cornell, you mean?
Well, it's NYSEG, I guess. That's what I meant.
Oh, nice. Oh, yeah. I got the feeling when I spoke with Andy about Bell Station that it was a convoluted path, but it was very likely to be preserved. That was my take. a number of things had to happen in a specific order, but that they were marching in that direction. Is that pretty
I
close
didn't mean to get
true?
too off topic. I just
Well,
still
no,
don't.
it's important.
I
No,
guess
they have to come up with the 500 acres, which they don't have yet, which is
You don't
a big
have to for a
challenge.
wildlife management area. That's for a
The
state
wildlife
forest.
management for state forest, okay.
Yeah, so they're okay with what they have.
Yeah, the
Mhm.
town's not going to push for the state forest piece. They don't need the pilot if it's going to be developed for solar, because they're going to end up with some kind of other pilot, right? Not a forestry pilot, but either another pilot or probably a host community agreement with whoever the solar developer is.
Mhm.
So
So it'll be a hunting spot then.
that's my
Yeah,
guess.
this is a
In
wildlife
part,
management area. Yeah.
I guess I didn't mean to derail the conversation. I just was trying to think about in answering Carrie's question is this a strategic parcel that you think is worth pursuing, or are there other areas that we should consider and make a decision about pursuing to preserve? Or is it just convenient that this one happens to be for sale right now?
You're talking about the Cornell?
Now I'm back to Cornell.
Yeah.
Orchards.
Overlap. There's an overlap between this event occurring and our scenic resources inventory. And so I think in the future, we need to clearly identify parcels at particular risk, but also have financial means in place for helping the town to acquire them. Because even for this parcel, if we were to pursue funding, for example, through the county, it could only be up to a third of the appraised value. So funding would need to come from elsewhere, and maybe in the future, we'll be able to figure out, like other towns have, set aside every year so that eventually when something like this occurs, we would have the funding to proceed. And I think other communities have figured this out, but we're just taking the early steps.
And does Finger Lakes Land Trust not have any interest in the orchards, or do you not even know that?
I called Andy twice this week, and we've met with him before, and they're supportive of any efforts that occur, but I don't think they're interested in acquiring it. He was pretty clear about that. So he might be able to advise about conservation easements and things like that. And in the past, he has even suggested fundraising, but not positive that we could reserve a place for long enough so that we could fundraise to get it. I think it's a little bit beyond the scope of what we can manage right now, unfortunately. Mhm.
well, we can kind of see what they come in at it appraised. They've got appraisers out there now, right? So you can kind of see what happens. Now, there's no reason the CAC can't bring this to town board's attention. Doesn't necessarily have to be through permissive referendum, but the town can appropriate revenues from property taxes to acquire open space. So if there's, a compelling case for that, especially in tandem with, for instance, the county's conservation funding, like Carrie was talking about, that will fund up to $200,000 of an acquisition of a parcel. So that gets you some of the way, right? So kind of wait to see what they come up with for a number. I'm really curious. I mean, I feel like it could be anywhere between, could be $500,000, could be 2+ million, I just don't know, because you don't have water there. You don't have municipal water. The closest municipal water is Ridge. So, that's, you got slopes, you got, there's a lot of things to think about there. If you're thinking about it from a development process, right? Like it's not the world's easiest site. So anyway,
People.
One more thing about this, the scenic resource or the scenic resource inventory. It would be nice to have a better picture of that particular site. The picture we have there has, you know, plastic fencing. The picture's taken through plastic fencing, looking down towards the lake, which I don't know. It doesn't look scenic where it was taken because of the fence.
I'll get you a better picture. Tom.
Yeah, Cornell might have a nice picture.
Might. I could steal it off the listing.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I'll go take a picture.
Please take a picture that we have the photo rights to use.
Yeah. Just as soon not get, you know, snagged for inappropriate grabbing of photos. I can get you that photo, Tom. I assume I have until after you're done with your vacation. How's your vacation going, by the way?
I was at Congaree National Park today. They have some of the biggest trees in South Carolina there.
Oh,
Pretty neat
great.
place.
Good, good. Glad you made it down there safely.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for hanging in there and allowing us to have a meeting with our small but powerful group. So,
Well, Carrie, congratulations on your book.
oh, thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Big accomplishment. I've already heard online chatter about it from friends of mine who just posted about it. And I was like, oh, I know that person. I was like, I know that book.
It's on climate change.
I'm already hearing chit chat about how excited people are to read it.
She's going to do a chat in the stack.
Thanks, Robin.
The authors are going to do a chat in the stack.
Okay, people, you poor folks, time for sleeping or what?
hey Karen,
Vacation.
could I grab you for just a moment after the
Sure.
meeting here? Is this adjourned?
Sure.
Yes, we are officially adjourned. Thank you for hanging in there and also for